Make my day. Those were President Joe Biden's fighting words this week, proposing 2 live debates with former President Donald Trump. Just hours later, it was set. ABC will host a September 10th debate with David Muir and Linsey Davis as moderators. And next month, on June 27th, CNN will host Biden and Trump in the earliest general election debate in history. The candidates jettisoned the Commission on Presidential Debates, which has organized presidential face-offs since 1988, instead agreeing to rules that would cut off mics when it is not the candidate's turn and ruling out a live audience. Biden's unprecedented and unexpected debate proposal comes as new swing state polling out this week paints a gloomy picture for his reelection. So can the early debates shift the race? We'll dive into all of that this morning, but first, a look at the tradition that began back in 1960.
The Republican candidate, Vice President Richard M. Nixon, and the Democratic candidate, Senator John F. Kennedy.
It was the first ever televised debate with no live audience, but nearly 70 million Americans watching Richard Nixon sweat and the handsome young John Kennedy likely sealing his narrow victory. Fast forward to 1984 to 73-year-old Ronald Reagan, who was then the oldest candidate in history, tackling his age head on.
I will not make age an issue of this campaign. I am not going to exploit for political purposes my opponent's youth and inexperience.
And if anyone doubted that debate answers can make or break presidential campaigns, remember this. Michael Dukakis's robotic answer to what was an emotional question.
Governor, if Kitty Dukakis were raped and murdered, would you favor an irrevocable death penalty for the killer?
No, I don't, Bernard, and I think you know that I've opposed the death penalty during all of my life.
And you don't just have to watch your words in these debates. There was George H.W. Bush checking his watch, and Vice President Al Gore's exasperated sigh.
I want that 2,000 to go.
Good evening, and welcome to the first and only vice presidential debate.
I moderated the vice presidential debate in 2012 between Congressman Paul Ryan and Joe Biden.
Why they
Is he wrong about that?
He is wrong about that. You can cut tax rates by 20%. And still preserve these important preferences for middle-class taxpayers.
Not mathematically possible.
It is mathematically possible. It's been done before. It's precisely what we're proposing.
It has never been done before.
It's been done a couple of times, actually.
It has never been
Jack
done
Kennedy
before.
lowered tax rates, increased growth. Ronald Reagan.
Now you're Jack Kennedy.
It was a feisty yet civil debate. My, how things have changed.
Such a nasty one.
4 years later, enter Donald Trump. I co-moderated one of the debates between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. It was, to say the least, challenging.
Thank you very much. We're going to move on.
It's funny, she went over a minute over, and you don't stop her. When I go 1 second over, it's like
You
a
had
big deal.
many
It's
answers.
really-
But that debate was nothing compared to what would follow in 2020, when Trump and Biden's first debate spiraled out of control.
I'm not going to answer the question
Why
because
would you answer that
because
question?
the question
You wanna put a
is
lot of
the
new
question
Supreme Court
is
justices,
the
radical
question.
left.
Will you
Who
shut
is your-
up, man?
listen,
From endless interruptions to name-calling.
with you,
Go ahead.
they
You
say-
get the, wait a minute. You get the final word, Mr.
Well, it's hard to get any word in with this clown. Excuse me, this.
Hey,
this
let me
person.
just say, to you,
Trump combative throughout.
Can I be honest? It's a very important
Try to be
question.
honest.
No,
He
I
stood
good
up.
No,
he stood up,
the answer to
and
the
he
question is
threatened
no.
Ukraine.
No, sir.
With $1 billion, if you
that
don't get rid of
is
the press.
absolutely
You know what? You're,
not
stop.
You're on
true.
tape doing it.
You're going to
You're on
have
tape.
True.
Gentlemen.
Nearly a month later, the final debate of that year, both men seeming to have learned a lesson, showing more restraint. But the debate was just 12 days before the election, and more than 48 million Americans had already cast their ballot.